On the program, I regard him as Auckland's other mayor, former national leader and head of the Auckland Chamber of Commerce, Simon Bridges. The discussion is the future of Auckland. If we get this wrong, and then New Zealand nosedives. We can't afford the incompetence and waste that we saw from Labour on the now defunct light rail project. $228 million. Simply down the drain. Gone. Let's get this right, so let's go.
Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, welcome to the program, folks. Nice to have you along with Editor-in-Chief. I'm Duncan Garner. And good evening. Please subscribe. First thing we do is the homework for the day. Subscribe and we'll keep this going. On the program tonight, Simon Bridges talks about what's needed in Auckland to get the city going right now. I'm impressed with Bridges. I think he's mature, experienced. He's been there and done that, and you can see that in the work he does now. In many ways, I think he's more impressive than the PM himself. And they ditched him. Anyways, Auckland. I will show you what happens when you stuff it up. As Labour did with the light rail project, we all pay and for quite some time, and it sets the city back. I'll show you who made those decisions, and some of them are still there seeking higher office, like Chris Hipkins. I will reveal a big mistake the PM's making, and why won't he regularly meet with Auckland's Mayor Wayne Brown. And I'll suggest what the PM needs to do if he wants Auckland to get cracking. So let's go.
It's the Slam Dunk.
Okay, this light rail debacle is like getting $228 million in cash, finding a massive sinkhole in Auckland's Dominion Road, and standing there and throwing it note by note into this vast black hole that ultimately never ends. Just imagine it, $228 million. This is the project that really highlights Labour's darkest days, except it was over 6 years. And it took National getting into office to finally euthanize this project, get rid of it. This is the project that highlights how inexperienced, how naive, how useless they were with the public purse. This highlights that no one in the room stopped them. This highlights how the public service is spineless and said nothing, and continued with this misguided mess for 6 long years. This shows us that Chris Hipkins was at all the relevant meetings, and even when he was PM, he did nothing to earn Labour's greatest stuff-up in 6 years. He simply kept writing out cheques with your money. And no one gained anything except for the suited consultants on Queen Street who would chant, "We love Labour," every Friday night over drinks. It had gone from light rail to an Auckland gravy train that was unstoppable, out of control and off the tracks, but simply going nowhere. In the end, the only thing that moved was the size of the consultant's bank balance. This really is a shocker, folks, and we should be constantly reminded what happened, who did what, and who is still there wanting higher office. Thank goodness for transparency, because we have had little in the way of accountability. I regard this as the biggest cock-up of the Jacinda Ardern government, and one that was ultimately carried on by Chris Hipkins, who refused to kill it off, and he remains in office and is seeking the office of Prime Minister. And I don't believe voters should forget this mess, or at least they should be reminded who was there, who did what at the time. It was meant to transform the city. It was your ride to the airport. In the end, taxpayers were taken for a ride, all right? A ride that went nowhere at a cost of $250 million, $228 million. Imagine spending that much money on a light rail project and not laying 1 metre of track. Imagine working on it for 6 years and not building 1 metre of it. Imagine being responsible for spending so much on nothing. Would you be embarrassed? In the private sector, heads would roll. In government, they doubled down and spent more. I'm talking about this failed Auckland light rail project that was promised by Labour in 2017, city out to the airport through Mount Roskill. By the time they got kicked out of office in 2023, the cost had blown out to $28 billion. They'd made consultants uber rich. As they left office, they remained committed to the project that threatened to bankrupt the city. All up, Labour employed and paid more than 200 consultants and companies who got filthy rich running the inexperienced and clueless, naive Labour government around and around for 6 years. Not one wise head in Labour or the doting public service said enough is enough. National did that. They pulled pin on it. But what waste, $228 million and not 1 metre of light rail track was laid. Not even a sod. Let me say it again. 6 years of talk, consultants, reports, reviews, decisions taken, then overturned. I'm talking about this biggest consultants in town, all the big names. They don't send invoices for a few thousand. They send invoices for millions. And in this instance, we got nothing back for $228 million. You can build a hospital for that. You could give Pharmac access to dozens of new cancer drugs to save lives, lengthen lives. You could build more than 100 state houses, hundreds of operations. You could train doctors and nurses and retain them. The opportunity cost of such vast wastage is huge. Classrooms, teachers. Jacinda Ardern, Grant Robertson, Michael Wood were the major culprits and major players. All walk away scot-free, and we sit further and deeper into congestion and with no light rail to show for it. They don't just walk away, but still decisions like this need further attention and accountability. Jacinda buggers off. She's all smiles, earns millions. Grant Robertson gets hired at Otago University, $600K. And Chris Hipkins is coming back. He wants to come back. How come there's no accountability or punishment for such vast wastage of how our hard-earned money is spent? Cleaners in South Auckland, their tax paid for that. But I have delved deeper into this process and what went on, and current Labour leader Chris Hipkins and his deputy, Garner were on crucial senior cabinet committees that ultimately took the wrong and financially crippling decisions. They were there. They voted. That's how this works. Cabinets are collective, and they agreed to this. The most expensive calls and decisions, and where the mistakes were made, came from a Cabinet Priorities Committee, chaired by Jacinda Ardern. But it was all of them that agreed to this, to these decisions, a small group of senior ministers. No one said no, that we can tell. No one said no. That's collective. I'm talking Chris Hipkins and Carmen Sepuloni. They were there on this crucial committee that kept saying yes. That's the current Labour leadership team seeking to unseat this government. They were there. Depending on how you see it, Andrew Little was as well. Andrew Little was on that committee. He was there. He's going for the Wellington mayoralty. He was there on that committee, keeping the gravy train to know we're going. And he's now asking for people's vote to run in Wellington. Here's the committee that made the crucial decisions. It's all up there on screen. You can see that. Now, I bet Chris Hipkins hates being reminded of this, and Sepuloni, but they are still there. How much responsibility have any of them taken? Said sorry? It's time taxpayers demanded so much better from people who have no more experience than you and I do, to be honest. Would you have let this thing unravel over 6 years? Would you have pulled the pin on it somewhere? Surely you could see by year 3 it was impossible. Good money went after bad. We've got to get it right, because it sets back all the other projects that Auckland needs. Just remember next time you vote, what happened, who was there, and what they're promising now. Short memories mean that they come back for seconds and take us for another ride to nowhere. We've got to remember the stuff.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, so what needs to happen in Auckland? Big question, isn't it? Simon Bridges is with us shortly. But I'll say this. I like Mayor Wayne Brown. I think he's been pretty effective. So I've changed my mind on that. But we need a plan. Chris Bishop wants 2 million houses in Auckland over the next 100 years. They're planning for about 1 million houses. So where will everyone go? Is this doable? What sort of city do we want? Firstly, we've heard Christopher Luxon won't meet Wayne Brown on a regular basis. They just don't meet on a regular basis. I think they should. I think that needs to change. Brown needs to be regarded as a sort of a third or fourth ranked cabinet minister. So Luxon needs to up his game on that. Luxon should be meeting him. And they also should invite him, in my view, to the cabinet on occasions that require it. So he sits around the cabinet table when there's crucial decisions about Auckland that need to be made. He's the mayor. Auckland will have another 2 million people here in the next 20 years. They'll be at 2 million within the next 5 years, and then it will double again over the next 20. What needs to happen to get Auckland right? It's so crucial. Half the city wasn't even born in New Zealand, so it's a very diverse, truly diverse city as well. Simon Bridges is with the Auckland Chamber of Commerce, former National Party leader, almost Prime Minister. Welcome to the podcast. Nice to see you.
Hey, good to be with you, Duncan.
What do we do? I mean, you've had this big discussion about Auckland, and where do we start? I mean, how would you rate Auckland at the moment out of 10? How would you, not just, for living, for the socioeconomic status, for how we get about, for how we live our lives?
I'm going to be a bit generous. I think I could be, on a hard day, I could be hard. I'm going to give it a 6. I'm going to give it a 6 because it's Auckland. It's in New Zealand. It's the biggest. It's the most multicultural. It's where basically all the big businesses are. It's the international gateway for New Zealand. I think it's got a lot of vibrancy, but it's definitely not a 7, 8, 9 because it's got a lot more potential. It could be a lot better than it has. And you and I both know this because we've lived here, I've lived here before. I'm back after 20 years. It's been a lot better than this in the past.
Yeah, it has. What have we done wrong, do we think? There's all sorts of examples that we've loaded it with people. We haven't kept up with the funding of it through population funding and everything. So what's wrong with it?
Oh gosh, where do we start? I think it's got harder to get around, so I think infrastructure is part of it. I think we sort of haven't kept up with a bunch of other, they call them, I'm going to use it, but they call them primate cities, the big bad city of a country. We haven't kept up with the Sydneys and the Melbournes, right? So there's a jobs thing there, and then I think just a bunch of other ways, I don't want to say in my day, but in my day, if you just take, may seem a bit random, but just take events, major events, right? Well, I was the Minister of Economic Development for about 5 minutes when Bill English was the Prime Minister, right? And there was about a $30 million budget for Auckland between central and local government that would put into, Rugby World Cup or women's football or whatever it was. That's now like 7 million, I think, and going down, right? So you need that stuff to make a place exciting. Events, good tourism initiatives, activations. It's just lacking all of that kind of mojo stuff.
Oh, I agree with you, and so we don't even fight for this stuff even more anymore. Like the Sale GP couldn't come here the first time because Auckland couldn't get that shit together, so that wasn't here. We're not going with a waterfront stadium because that's too difficult and too hard. We didn't even bid for the America's Cup because we can't do that. And it's all very well saying America's Cup, well, that's top of the town stuff. But you need events, Simon. Events is economic development, it's GDP, it's jobs. Everything stems from that. You might spend $5 million getting it, but you might make $100 million. Come on.
Totally. We were just talking before off air. I went to Rutherford College, Rutherford High it was back then, and it's pinnacle in my career. Head boy, amazing, very proud of all of that. But here's my point. So I grew up in West Auckland, you'd say, not a silver spoon in your mouth. But by the way, all my mates got jobs in hospo around the America's Cup when it came, and what would it have been? Not
95.
early, not mid 90s, something like that, right? We were all working in it. We made good coin. We were down there on the viaduct. The viaduct was very exciting. There were attractive girls around. It was outstanding, right? So my only point is, you don't have to be a billionaire to get something out of these things, right? They're great for a city.
Oh, I remember that. It was 95. One of my first pay packets from TVNZ.
Yeah.
I bought my mum and dad. I bought my mum and dad a $110 yachting trip to go and watch the first race. So they went down on this little tub, and I think mum got sick. It was awful. She hated it in the end. But it was events. People went to North Heath, put the red socks on, whatever it was. I don't know, Simon. Auckland doesn't have that ambition anymore. When was the last big event?
Yeah, well, women's football, right? And again, you could fact check me on this, and I may or may not be proved to be right, but I feel reasonably certain when I was Minister of Economic Development for about 5 minutes, Sir Brian Roche, who, like you and me, all good old things come back at some point, and Dame Therese Walsh, who's now head of Air New Zealand, so they were head of the sort of the major events fund, and they came and saw me as Economic Development Minister. I ticked off and signed some of the documents on the FIFA Women's World Cup. But that's how long it takes to get these things, right? And then it happened, what was it, last year or the year before? I can't remember. Last year, and there is nothing else in the bag. There's nothing in the pipeline and that. So the current government, local government, I'm not being politically, I just think they need to have a look at themselves. We want to see those things. They really matter to a city alongside, good jobs and industry and all the other things that matter. But that's an important part of it.
Yeah, I agree. So we've lost a bit of ambition and we've lost a few jobs and that. I mean, Helen Clark went with Tana Umaga, you'll remember this, and she put an all-black kit on and went and sat in Dublin to win the World Cup for New Zealand. She's not a rugby woman. She's not a rugby person. She'd rather read a book in the car, remember? But she did it for New Zealand Inc.
That's not fair. She pretends to like league. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Well, she did. Not anymore. But no, but seriously, Clark knew about nationhood. She knew about big events and Labour and National. There was an agreement on that, back then. But now, I think we have lost an ambition. And what's the point of having the big fancy CRL, the new big train set under the ground here, which is going to be amazing, if we've got no people coming here?
No, that's right. So I wanted to mention that. So before everyone says, Simon Bridges and Duncan, God, they were depressing, they're pessimists, they're down on it, they should be more patriotic and more excited. Look, I think cities go in cycles, right? I think we're in a bit at the moment where it's not as good as it could be. The economy's been tough. I just want to make a prediction. This time next year, and the government's very lucky, by the way, you and I are old political hacks, so they're very lucky because not through their own skill or management, but this time next year, things are going to be feeling a fair bit better, right? You've got a farmer-led export recovery coming through the economy, okay? It hasn't hit Auckland yet, definitely hasn't, but over time it's going to percolate through a level. You've got interest rates continuing to come down, so John Key's told the Reserve Bank it needs to get them down a bit more, and I think they will, right? Because we all know everyone seems to listen to John and Helen. They're about the only ones anyone seems to, but so they're going to keep coming down. We're going to have the CRL and the International Convention Centre open within about a week or two or three of each other. No one's saying when. I reckon it's possibly April, May, something like that. They're not silver bullets, but you take the CRL, think about this. Number one, it will be amazing in a transport sense. So if you live out West Auckland, you're getting in and out. But number two, it's just psychological, Duncan. You and I will see these massive cathedrals, secular cathedrals they call train stations, and you're going to say, shit, this looks like I could be in London. How good is this? This is exciting, right? So I'm just saying things will feel quite a bit better next year. But then just to balance it up and be negative again for a second, none of that is to suggest that that's good enough. We should still be doing these things that we need. We should be tourism isn't back to where it was pre-COVID. International education isn't back. We want young people around the city eating out, having a good time, and all that. Events aren't. We've talked about that. So there's so much for local and central government and the city leadership, the business people to be getting on with in the meantime, so that when the wave comes, it feels better than just kind of the cycle, which is like this.
Yeah.
We're competing with Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Brisbane, and these are terrific cities.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the Gold Coast over summer with my son and took a mate of his over. It's just the buzz and the job in construction. I mean, we've lost so many, and that's another thing actually. We've lost a lot of people. We've lost this big chunk of middle class New Zealand who've decided to see you, and they may not be back. But those are the people that create GDP growth. They're the creators. They're bright. They're smart. We're not talking losers. We're talking a big chunk of smart people. Yeah, and you don't replace them easily.
So I think what's required is government, local government to get round the table and say, you know what, okay, what do we actually need to do to get tourism back to where it was? Because if they do that, that's worth like $1 billion a year more, or probably more, to Auckland. International education used to be a $6 billion sector just before COVID. Now it's like, don't quote me, but I want to say it's about a $2.5 billion. That's a lot of money that Auckland's missing out on, right? Because basically, there's a bit around the plate, but that's Auckland. And then what do we need to do to kind of Auckland and what do you? I'm big on the fact, and it's not because I'm a technology guy, but I just look and say, Fisher and Paykel Healthcare. That's basically that's a med-tech company. That's an $8 billion revenue company out in South Auckland. That's awesome. Rocket Lab, whatever that is. Okay, people, the detractors say it's an American company. There's a bit of truth in that. But it is here. It's created 150 millionaires, right? That company internally. So what does government, local government, business need to do to have a few more of those? Because that's what keeps the people you're talking about, Duncan. All these things I'm saying, you do that, you have better events, people feel safe in the city, they go to the rugby or the theatre or whatever their thing is, whether you're Helen Clark or you're Duncan Garner, you'll find something you like. You need all that vibrancy and economic vibrancy to keep people here.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I was in town last night with Mum and my family because it was my son's birthday. So we went around by there's a restaurant downtown, and it was a bit difficult to come in because of the road cones and the roadways, and that'll all go. I'm sure it'll go. But I wanted to come to the city because it's a bit old fashioned for me. We used to go to the city with Mum and Dad when we were young, and it was a big deal. So I wanted to do this with my son, 15. You go to the city, and he likes that sort of thing. But it was difficult. It was really difficult. It was hard to get around and everything, but we did it anyway. And I reckon there were a few people around last night where we were, and their vibrancy was quite good. But we need people back into work as well. Like I reckon this has had an impact, having 2 days off a week. And the jobs now advertised. You can have flexible time. You can be at home. That's affected restaurants. It's affected buses. It's affected everything in town because you're taking people out of the city.
You need people in offices, in University of Auckland and AUT lecture theatres, right? Because then you come out and buy a sandwich and have a coffee and all that. At the events, at the Sky City, to tourists, all of that. City, here's what I always say. It's a bit corny, but I'm going to sort of say, the more I think about these things, cities matter as much as countries, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people think on New Zealand. New Zealand really matters. As are you. We're patriots for this country. We love it. I can't consider being sort of anything other than New Zealander, right? But as much as that, Auckland really matters. Cities really matter. And then here's the kicker. If cities really matter, what really matters to a city is the city centre, is the CBD, right? Jerry Brownlee used to say, you're my old mate. He's still alive and kicking, Speaker of the House. But he always used to say to me, he was leader of the House, so that's the guy who runs the Parliament, the government. And then after him, I became the leader of the House, right? Again, for about 4 minutes. It was quite good fun. And but he always used to say about Parliament, Parliament is the beating heart of government. If the blood's flowing around and things are going well in Parliament for the government, everything else goes well. That's true of city centres. If the city centre is going well, you've got lots of people coming in, they feel good about it. Actually, all of the rest of Auckland will be going well. So I think personally, I live Grafton, city fringe. I'm a believer in the city. My wife and kids, we come in all the time. Actually, we feel safe. I've got to say, and we eat out quite a bit and do all that. But there's just it. Again, it's all the stuff. It's a 5. What did I say? 6 out of 10. But it could be a 7 or 8. Get rid of the road cones. I don't know if you've been down to the public library lately, Duncan. But if you walk through that alley, and I'm not a hard man. I've got compassion. But it is a,
it's a rest home. It's a home for the homeless. Yeah.
Yeah, correct, and that something needs to happen about that. We need to feel safe. We need to feel like it's not filled with odd bods, but there's lots of students, tourists, business people hanging out.
Yeah, I was at AUT. I did my degree there, just around the corner from there. So that would be a corridor through the high street and through the city, and it wasn't like that then. No, there was a little bit. It was just the odd rough diamond, but now it's become. Well, now it's become almost home base for them, which suggests that we need a home base for them. But they need to go. Where do you put these? Because there's more homeless now than ever.
Well, you remember that though, right? I was thinking about this. So I don't want to get critical here. You're probably slightly older than me, but we're basically the same vintage, right? It'd be
You're a prick. 51.
No. Yeah, so you're 3 years older than me, 3 years older than me. But you remember, so we're talking 90s. By the way, I applied to be in that communications course. Phil Goff was the boss of it. It was a term he had out of Parliament. I got a letter from Phil Goff rejecting me as a sixth
Did you really?
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because they only took 3 guys. I was in a class of 31. There was one gay guy, a bogan, and me, and 28 women. You would have loved it.
No. Well, should I? Fuck, who knows? Well, I shouldn't be swearing this. If unprofessional, but who knows what I'd be doing now if I'd done that right? I think I'd be competing with you, you bastard. Yeah, I'd be competing with you. No, that's a true story. I applied in sixth form. I would have gone to it. I would have instead of seventh form, but because I didn't get in, I went to seventh form. I was head boy in my school, and then I did law, right? And the rest is history. But anyway, that's
I was considering doing law. But I got accepted into that. It's a hard course to get into, you know. You had to be a woman for a start.
Here's the no, totally. And I would have done broadcasting, by the way. But that's not the point. The point is this. So back in those days, are we talking early 90s, whatever?
Yeah.
You and I knew the people perhaps, and I'm not being glib about this, is sad, and so, but the people who were homeless, who probably had a mental illness or something like that. There was a little guy with the long dreadlocks. You remember him? And then there was several others, right? But that was it, right? You remember them because actually that was unusual, and it wasn't intimidating or worrying. There was a few of them hanging about. Now it's just at another magnitude, and I'm not being callous about it. I feel for them and their issues, but the CBD. Queen Street up through there, that's our international shop front. It's where the cruise boats come. You can't have them sitting outside Prada with the trolley and the mangy dog,
No.
I'm not being judgmental. They've got deep issues, but between council, government, police, social workers, we need to deal with that, and whether it's another home base or what it is, I don't know. But
yeah, it is. Yeah, and San Francisco's gone to the dogs. If you've been there in the last few years, I couldn't believe when I went there. When I took my son there, and I just couldn't believe it. I thought, not coming back here. But there's more cops on the beat. The government has actually addressed some of these issues. Some of it's just sloganeering, but some of it's actually worked.
There's, I would say. And I was talking to, I don't do this very often, I'm going to name drop, because now I'm a has-been, I get to do these. I was talking to Mark Mitchell this morning, actually.
Same.
There you go. The police minister, he's a great dude. And I was, because I don't want to be disingenuous here. I was saying, you and Goldsmith, you're doing a good job in justice. And so I think that's basically true. I agree with you. It's basically true. If I walk down K Road, which is close to where I live, or Queen Street, I would see more cops than I used to, and they're taking it a bit more seriously. We don't see the ram raids, so they deserve some credit for that. We're not sort of seeing them the way we were. I still think there's a bit more to do, and they need to take the city centre even just notch it up a bit, just so it's because I think the perception is still a bit back where it was. People haven't caught up, and we really need people to feel it's safe. I'm coming in with my kids. I can be
Yeah.
there at 11:30 at night, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, the 501 stuff hasn't helped. This is a dumping ground, and it's either here or the Western Bay of Plenty, and that hasn't helped. That part of Auckland where the stadium was planned, just down by the viaduct there, and just Silo Park, such a beautiful area, but an area that demands events. An area we've put all this money into the wharves and all the docks and everything. You've got a defunct America's Cup building, a bit of grass, and I try and catch some fish at the end there, but it's probably not deep enough. So what are we doing? That's the most expensive land in New Zealand.
I want to answer that, but can I just? I am digressing, but only put 20 seconds. Where's the best fishing spot in Auckland? Sort of central-ish, not sort of greater. What would you say? You're not going to tell me. Because
there's nothing in this
long walk of Tamaki Drive, which is okay-ish. But okay, you're not going to tell me. All right, well that's
no. Well, because I went out recently. No, I'll do this. Hauraki Golf. It's been hammered, and I go out to Little Barrier. So I take the boat.
Yeah.
Little Barrier.
I don't
deep
have
and
a
clear.
boat. So it's where I'd go if I didn't have a boat. We don't have a boat. We've got good fishing rods now. We don't have the boat. But anyway, that's
Okahu Bay Wharf. Go and whack it off there. Yeah,
that's where we
go
go.
there and just keep patient.
Yeah, exactly. No, he gets it. He gets some good stuff. No, not good stuff, but he gets the odd slightly oversized snapper, and that's good. Okay,
North Head rocks. North Head. Go around
that's
there.
pretty good.
Kingfish.
Better than Okahu Bay, or
A bit deeper
okay,
and more current.
yes. To answer your question, let me first declare a conflict of interest in answering this. I am on the board of Eden Park now. Okay, so I'm just putting that out.
An issue.
Thank you, Mark Mitchell. Okay, let's just complete the circle there. No. Actually, it's a fascinating, important board, and I'm really.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So here's what I think. Right, I'm a bit cynical from years of politics and various other things. Anyone who thinks that government of any description, red, blue, black, yellow, green, Te Pāti Māori is going to come in and fund a multi-billion-dollar stadium in the city is dreaming, right? Because at the end, and I get it, we've got too many other problems, yeah? And people say to me, you're wrong, Simon, because it doesn't need any government money. We can just do this as the private sector. That's not true, right? It'll always need government there. And a big stadium like an Eden Park is several $billion bucks, right? I mean,
easy.
Easy. And you and I know if they say at the start it's going to be $5 billion, it'll be $7 billion. If they say $4 billion, it'll be $6 billion. Anyway, so that's not going to happen. So what does that mean? Well, none of that means that I don't think you're right, that down there somewhere, wherever it is, what would be amazing is a bespoke 15,000, 20,000 stadium, right? I'll tell you how I would fund that. You never know. Life's a long time. I'm not going for mayor anytime soon. But if somehow I revisit this, because Wayne is like 78, Donald's like 79. Winston's like 80. I got a long time. It could happen.
Yeah, you're already halfway there. Yeah.
30 years, right? I got 30 years. I would rationalise the stadiums a bit. We don't need North Harbour, is my personal view. There's some, and then you'd use some of that, and you could do a bespoke one down there, 15,000, 20,000. What that would mean is it wouldn't detract from Eden Park fundamentally, but your smaller stuff, your Blues, your AFC, your Warriors, the smaller concerts, they'd be down there and they'd be heaving, right? 15,000 people, whereas 15,000 at Eden Park, unfortunately at the moment, it looks empty, right? Or it looks not. None of that means, so then what you've got to do, and again, bit of central government, a few other bits and pieces come in. We do need to put lipstick on Eden Park, right? We do need to make that better, more fit for purpose. There, 2.1, they call it, the roof on it. so that for the internationals and stuff, it stacks up with what they're doing in Brisbane and Melbourne. So that's what I see. We're never going to get the really big one. Fix up Eden Park and build a bespoke downtown.
I think that's a good argument. NRL games, if you go to any NRL game over in Australia, they've got average crowds of about 13,000, 14,000, and they look full. And that's how it works. And it looks, and at 14, 15,000 up to 20, it looks like a busy stadium, and there's atmosphere, and it's close. Eden Park's different; it's quite a further away, but Eden Park's special too. So okay, so we've agreed on that. A second harbour crossing.
Okay, well, now, just another conflict of interest. I'm chair of NZTA.
Jesus, you're these chairmanships.
Life is stuff. You've got to earn a living, Duncan. You and I both know that, man. I came from West Auckland. No one's.
I'm doing this.
There's no big trust fund, and that's a privilege as well. So I'm just gonna. Here's what I think about the crossing, right? So what NZTA is doing there is, you will have seen that square thing in the harbour where they're doing geotech work to work out what's going on underneath. That'll come out with some recommendations. That is such a big kahuna that's not going to be the likes of NZTA that decide what happens with a crossing. That's going to be ministers and prime ministers, right? Because it's a tens of billions of dollar job that's required there. I don't have a strong view if it's a tunnel or it's a bridge or what it is. Other people will. The other thing I think is really important on a crossing, and we will need to do this, right? Because at some point the bridge is not going to be good enough, more traffic, blah, blah, blah. The other thing that's really important here, Duncan, you know better than me, the thing that stuffed up big projects, whatever you think about them, in New Zealand, is the lack of sort of bipartisanship. It's National saying we love this, Labour coming in and stopping it, or Labour saying we love this, National coming and stopping this. So what is critical if we're going to embark on what could be a tens of billions of dollar project, is that somehow the blue and the red team, and even better the others, come in and say, you know what, broadly speaking, we have slightly different views on this, but we all agree it's going to be kind of a tunnel that's around about here. Yeah. We've got that on. The one big thing, we're doing quite a bit, but the one really big thing NZTA is doing right now is getting on with that Northland Road, right?
Yeah. So good. Go hard.
We're going hard, right? So four laning that. But here's the thing: we can do that, I think, as chairman of NZTA, because I feel reasonably clear that between the red and the blue team and the black team and the yellow team, actually they all believe in that, right? So no one's going to come in and try and. They might have slightly, but no one's going to try and cancel that. We need that on a harbour crossing before we get too serious.
You do, because it's such a big project. But look at light rail. I mean, National could never have agreed with that because they spent $228 million on consultants. They didn't have 1 metre of light rail track. It was a disaster in the end. It just kept going. National had to euthanize it. How do you get bipartisanship on that sort of stuff? Because that was a debacle.
Well, I'm going off remit and being well behaved, not well behaved here, but I think what I would suggest about that is the then government, my sense is between politicians and agencies, they confused themselves, right?
Didn't they?
And so then nothing happened. I think what's true of governments is, had they got physically started, had they signed contracts and got physically started on that project, the current government wouldn't have canned it, right? Because they hadn't, well, goodbye to that. So I personally think there's something in, if you know what you're doing, if within reason it's not a bad project, get on with it because life sport and otherwise things just get canned. And we've had several years where just not enough has happened in transport.
I agree, and I think they get into a bubble when they get into in the end they get in a room, they don't hear anyone else, and they think they're actually working on the project, but to the public's view, nothing's happening at all, and it didn't happen for 6 years. So you got 6 years of people running around writing reports thinking that was the job. in the end because they get so blindsided by it. So up north is great, and when you have bipartisanship, I agree, you see that. I reckon Luxon needs to meet Wayne Brown regularly. I reckon that there's something in that. I understand that they don't at this moment, but I think that Brown deserves it. I think this is like a third or fourth ranked cabinet minister. I think it's like a Stephen Joyce type figure in that last government of Nationals. Something like that. What do you think?
I've talked about this in the past. If I think about the CRL, right, whatever you think about it, but I think anyone who's got concerns about it, maybe it costs too much, it took too long, all this stuff, but anyone who's got, once it's open, it'll be good, right? But here's the CRL story. The CRL happened because Len Brown was like a dog with a bone.
Yeah, I know.
He and I, because that was the expectation at the time, and it was good hygiene, we met every month. I want to say, or at least quarterly, but I think it was, and actually what happens when you do that is, even though he was sort of from the red team and back then I was from the blue team, hey, we got on really well. He's a good guy.
He's all right.
And we had and so he persuaded me about the merits of CRL. And then what I did was I persuaded the Prime Minister at the time, John Key. You know, there are these reasons.
I remember this. And Joyce, because Joyce didn't believe in it. I remember interviewing him on The Nation, didn't believe in it. And I remember you working behind the scenes to get their belief over the line. And now look.
And so my point of all of that is I don't know what's going on in terms of who meets who. I think my sense is a bit variable. Some ministers are meeting a lot with local government, and some really good things are happening. But I do think, as a general rule, it's good for government and local government to meet, because Auckland's, an exceptional case. It's not Te Awamutu. There's nothing wrong with Te Awamutu, nice place, but it's.
Be careful.
I love Te Awamutu, but it's what is it? It's well over a third of the population, the economy, etc.
Yeah, so it's part of. I'll make this the last question. As part of New Zealand, it's really significant, like London is to England. But you have to think it's to the UK. So, but I think Auckland's actually more important.
It is
because in Britain they have big cities everywhere. We don't. Like this is the heartbeat. I know people down south will say, "Oh, you wanker," but it's actually crucial that this gets right. That this becomes right. You know?
And I reckon there's a few things in that. I reckon New Zealand's getting less parochial in this stuff. I can remember as a young politician going to Christchurch, I couldn't get them. A joke I'd tell anywhere in the North Island, you go down there, you couldn't get them to crack a smile. Right? It was like, here's this young, thinks he's great punk from the Upper North Island. I don't think
wanker.
Yeah, I don't think that's true anymore. So I think New Zealand actually, by and large, gets that we're too small. We need Auckland to succeed. You're absolutely right. Auckland is more important to New Zealand. Just look at the populations. London, 9 million, circa something like that. UK, 65 million. Auckland, nearly 2 million out of a population of 5 point something million. So it dwarfs it. Everyone needs it to go well. It's the big special case. I mean, next biggest city is, what is it, Christchurch or Wellington? It depends how you measure.
Christchurch now. Yeah, Wellington's halved, I think.
Auckland is 3-4 times bigger in population size.
Where's he ever going to live? I know Chris Bishop wants to build, I think something like 2 million houses in the next 100 years or something is his plan. So his plan is double what the planners are saying. Where's everyone going to go, Simon?
I think he's doing a really. I
think he's great. Yep.
He's doing some. Up and out, it's both. I don't think you've got to have a bit of both. But see, look at what they're saying about the council's put out some stuff recently. City centre, which we've talked about, we say it's important. Don't quote me to the 1,000, but let's say 45,000 people living in the city centre right now, right? Next 20 years, let's say, that's going to over 100,000. But by the way, that'll happen much quicker than that, right? It always has. Our population's growing much quicker in Auckland than any of the projections. So I can see a time when Auckland, there'll be just a lot more people living here. I think that's great. Because you're sort of, you're at Greyland or something. I mean, you're fringe-ish.
Yeah, I'm fringy. Yeah, I'm fringy. I find it. I mean, I just don't know. Some of these hotspots now. What are they going to be like in 20 years? If Auckland's doubled the population in 20 years. Auckland will be. They want 3-4 million here.
Yeah, and as you said at the start, and with quite a difficult geography and so on. But I don't know. Look, hey, have you been to Singapore, mate?
Yeah,
people
yeah.
on that sort of postage stamp? Have you been? It's a bit messy.
Yeah, and we do sort it, eh? We sort it. Yeah. So great to see you, mate. I think we had to be home by 6. It's now almost 3, so that's why we're leaving now, to be home by 6. So it's all good.
I'm going to some other meeting that won't be anywhere near as good as this, but good to see you.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, so Simon Bridges. Good God, he knows some stuff. He's been around. Isaac, what do you reckon? He knows stuff, right? It's good.
Yeah. Oh no, he's a good guy. He's good.
Yeah.
Good chat.
Yeah, it is a good chat. And he's fascinating discussion. There's lots going on in Auckland. Don't be depressed. It's about opportunity. But we do need more events, you know. We can't just say no to everything. Then nothing happens. You've got to do stuff. Anyway, we've got a letter. We've got a letter there, right?
Yes, we do indeed. This one coming through from Gwendolyn. It's about your take on the Greens' plan for a train system through the Golden Triangle up north. And she says, loved your episode on rail in NZ. I agree that NZ has at 5 million can never compete with things like the Eurostar or the Shinkansen bullet trains of Japan. However, some successful examples of intercity rail with smaller nations and between smaller towns very much exist. Instead of high speed, we aim for higher speed rail. I feel a lot of Kiwis believe it's either a bullet train or nothing, which is false. And the Te Huia Hamilton to Auckland connection shows it to be false. It must be done right. Some examples of cheaper systems with less people and challenging terrain exist in Norway, Sweden, Finland, rural V-line fleet for Victoria, and even Japan. Although people think Japan's rail is just the super-fast bullet trains between major cities, Japan also has an amazing network of smaller trains that run on narrow gauge systems as NZ 80% of Japan's, same as NZ at 80% of Japan's rail. These trains connect small towns and slightly bigger cities. They're incredible and highly reliable. I hope New Zealand can one day lose the small mind attitude of too far away, too small, too poor to achieve anything, and actually aims to be an ambitious nation that punches above its weight again. Gwendolyn.
Yeah, no, well said. I played rugby in Japan and was over there on school trip as well, then went back and played rugby. And the Shinkansen is the one that gets all the headlines, but all the trains offered are so reliable. It's how people move. They've got 120 million people there. So if they sleep on the planes on the train standing up, mate. 20 minutes sleep and then they're off. Totally different country, but it does work so well, and I think we need to be more ambitious in so many of these spaces. Yeah, right. That is us. Yep, that's us. Thank you so much for your feedback and all your support. Keep in touch with us as well through our social media. Duncan Garner Podcast on TikTok, Instagram. Flick us an email, duncan@rover.nz. Always enjoy getting emails. Always good. Isaac, thank you, mate. Awesome. I always learn something when I interview someone, usually on this podcast. And like today with Simon Bridges, I learned stuff. I can take something away with me in my head and think about it,
That's good. And hopefully the audience does too.
Yeah, well, if they don't, we might need to workshop that. I don't know. We could talk about that later. Remember, lifestyle dress rehearsal, no curtain raiser. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth. So get out and enjoy it. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Take care, New Zealand. Ta-ra.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.